Hello. In this video presentation, we are going to talk about an introduction to arrays in the context of JavaScript and specifically Node.js, although there's nothing really Node.js specific within this demonstration. When we talked about arrays, I mentioned that some languages only allow you to declare an array and then you can never add or remove elements from an array. In other words, the size of the array is immutable. JavaScript is not one of those languages. JavaScript is very dynamic and flexible, which has its own problems, but in the case of arrays, it allows some flexibility that you may not find in other languages. So in JavaScript, you can definitely add new elements to the end of an array. You can remove elements from an array. It's very easy to interact with arrays, but you do need to keep in mind that there's no guarantee on the size of an array as the program is running. So, as we mentioned in the presentation, a common use case is grouping data together. We're going to use the example of a course room in which there is one assignment and I need to do some basic logic on that assignment for each of my students. So the first thing I'm going to do is say use strict in my JavaScript. And now I'm going to just create a couple variables. We'll call it student 0 grade. And we'll say student 1 got a 95. And we'll say student 1 grade is equal to 92. And student 3 grade is equal to, we'll say, 83. Now, if I wanted to, actually have a logic error here. And I want to change that to 2. Now, if I wanted to get the course average so far for this assignment, I could do something very simple, such as var average is equal to student 0 grade plus student 1 grade plus student 2 grade. And I'll probably actually want to wrap this in parentheses so that I can add those all together and then divide by, we'll say 3, because that's how many students there are. And we can just do console.log. Average is equal to average. And now if I run that in Node.js, and just be Node, then the file name, you'll see that the average is 90. Now, that's all well and good, but now imagine I have a new student that comes into my class. Well, now we'll say var student 3 grade is equal to, we'll say the student rushed through it, didn't get a good explanation from me, so got a 72. Well, now my average logic is out of sync with my data. I need to come in here and say, all right, student 3 grade, and we'll drop this onto another line, and it's going to be divided by 4. So now if I, I accidentally hit enter there. So now if I run my array application, I have a different average. But now imagine that I have 120 students. Well, we've already seen me make a couple mistakes by typing in the wrong number. Or what if I needed to change the format of my variable names? What if I accidentally misspelled one? With so much data being very similar but not grouped together, it becomes very difficult to maintain. And each time I add a new student, not only do I have to worry about putting the student's grade in there, but I need to make sure that I update my average logic. So what I really want to do is use an array. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete all of this, and we are going to just create an array. We'll call it var grades. And in JavaScript, I don't have to specify the data type, so I can just give my square brackets and then just start typing grades. So we'll say 94, 98, 72, 68, 98, 100, and 83. Now, like I said, with JavaScript, I can actually come in here and say grades.push to add another value. Whereas something like C# or Java, I couldn't really do that. I would have to make sure that all my data was in my initialization. Now again, one downfall of that is that when I go to actually do my logic, I need to keep in mind that I can never be guaranteed on the length of the array. It can change as the program runs, which has its strengths and weaknesses, but not really relevant to this conversation. So now I can say my var total grade, and we'll set this equal to 0. What I can do now is I can say var I equals 0. Oh, we'll call it index. I'm going to loop over each element of my grades, and I'm going to add that grade to a total grade variable that's going to act as a holder. And the reason I'm doing that is I'm going to need the total grades, and then I can divide by the number of grades to get the average. So I set my total grade equal to 0, and I create a basic for loop where I've got an index variable equal to 0. At the start of each loop, I'm going to see whether the current index, and remember the first time it's going to be 0, whether that's less than grades.length. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 8 because I've got this push down here. So this is going to check whether the index is less than 8. If it is, we're going to run through the loop, and then we're going to increment that index by 1. So what I want to do inside of my loop is say total grade is equal to total grade plus grades index. And what that's going to give me is it's going to increment the total grade by whatever value is at each index. So now to get my average, all I really need to do is say total grade is divided by grades.length. And now, if I come over to my terminal and run it, you'll see that I have an average grade. If I need to add another student, for example, I do grades.push 95, and maybe I also add it up here, I don't have to change my average logic. My average functionality will remain the same. Because I'm able to use the array as a separate data object, I don't have to go back and forth between adding the data and then changing my behavior.